What is that? Looks like a balloon. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live. You'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, and Roku sticks. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Did someone burst your balloon?
No, but that one went over about as well as a lead one.
Well, it actually was kind of like a lead balloon because it carried, they were saying, the weight of 3 buses. It was the size of 3 buses. And I don't know if that's an exaggeration, but, you know, if you've ever done or seen and heard about the experiment of standing on the Empire State Building roof and dropping a penny, it buries itself in the concrete quite a distance when it lands. And that would be the concern with shooting it down first sight.
You know, as many on the internet will be quick to tell you, they could have shot it down wherever they wanted. The news media would have covered it up anyway, even if the loss of life was significant. So
the memes are out there. The memes are out there.
Idiocy.
People throwing beer bottles at it.
It's 60,000 feet up. Why are you trying to shoot it? Oh.
Shooting at it. You know, and just to the point that I don't know if it got repeated many times, but it lowered itself to an elevation that allowed the jets to reach it, because the jets can only go up to about 58,000 or 60,000 feet, right? And the balloon was at 60,000 feet. Now, normally that balloon would be a lot higher and it wouldn't be noticed, which, if you believe reports, it happened 3 times during the Trump administration and another time here in the Biden administration. And were we told about it when it went over Canada, or did we find out about it when it went over the U.S. and blah, 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 blah?
We didn't hear about it until it got over the missile silos over Montana. So, you know, it is what it is.
So our government figured it wasn't worth telling us.
You know, I mean, it's 60,000 feet up, and we don't really have nuclear capabilities to speak of. And everybody knows where all of our bases are anyways. It's not like we're a significant military power. So what are they going to do? Look at cows in Alberta?
Yeah, if it was the Russians, I'd say they were spying on Hockey Canada.
Well, you know, they got to do something, right?
Well, if you remember 72, they did some pretty interesting stuff in 72, the Russians. So we're not talking about the Chinese, who are the ones who were responsible for this move. And apparently they have hundreds of them. And apparently there's one flying across in South America right now as we speak.
Yeah, there is apparently one that actually just transited over Mexico towards the Gulf of Mexico itself. So, you know, I mean, this is not an unusual or uncommon thing.
I can't imagine that there's probably somebody from the Chinese army on the ground with a remote going, following it with a Jeep, because it doesn't move that quick either, right? Or at least that's what we're led to believe. Yeah, so that story is something that it quashed an opportunity for Blinken, the guy in charge of talking to the Chinese, and he might have had a chance to talk to the president of China, and he didn't get his chance to do that. So there were conversations that weren't had because of this situation, and that's not good in itself, Aaron.
No. Unfortunately, when an incident like this occurs, there are all sorts of mitigating circumstances. There are geopolitical ramifications. There's also the physical fallout. You know, I mean, if you were to shoot this thing down over a populated area, the equivalent of the weight of 3 buses coming down in a populated area, regardless of how sparse, is definitely not something to be, you know, looked forward to.
Let's say that the Biden government, let's not talk about the Biden government. Let's talk about a group of people says do something, right?
Yeah.
And tells another group of people, you got to do this. Do it. Let's say that group does what they're asked to do and something really bad happens. Does the first group take responsibility?
Of course not. They were just responsible for telling the other people to do it. It's the other people's fault for doing it.
And that's why the people that are in control do it when they want to do it. So they did. And, you know, I believe because I've never heard Biden in front of me on film for me to hear him disagree with the Army, in the sense that I don't picture him arguing with them if they said, you know what, sir, there could be a problem if we shoot it down, somebody gets hurt. I could see Biden saying, well, no, I guess I'll have to pay attention to what you're saying. Now, if it was Trump, I would say something. He would say, go ahead and shoot him. Something bad happens, he'd get a magic marker to try to erase what happened. So, it's not something. Oh, did I, was that, is it too soon? Too soon to,
No, it's the
that one didn't
resigned
fly either.
acceptance of what could potentially happen.
Jeez. Yeah. Our whole world stopped because of a balloon, an air balloon. And is it a weapon? Is it something that's been weaponized? If spying is a weapon, okay, then maybe it has been weaponized. But it's not something that, and as you all know, if you follow this at all, there are lots of satellites in the sky that belong to a few countries who, and we've seen it. We've seen it with the Americans. There are cameras in the sky that literally can guide a rocket onto a balcony and kill a terrorist. So I don't know how much more information you're going to get beyond that.
The ability to fly a weaponized drone up somebody's left nostril from 50,000 miles away is already there. So a balloon taking pictures of the Montana countryside doesn't necessarily upset me all that much.
And my final comment is when there's a politician who says, "Oh, maybe they're dropping the Wuhan flu down on us." Now, that's possible, but the flu or a virus, if they released it at 50,000 feet, I don't think it would come down directly below it. It might float for a little while, and it could make it all the way back to China. So that would be a dumb move on China's part, if you understand the point I'm trying to make. So all these things that people say, critical thinking, please try it on for size. It feels good. It works well. Try it.
It's easy to be critical. It's not so easy to be a critical thinker.
Let's take a break from the news and let's go right to sports. And it seems that Winnipeg's going to keep the local guy Dembski.
Yeah, so in a move that I don't really think actually surprised anyone, Nick Dembski is back. I think what might have surprised people is the 3-year extension that he got. He was set to become a free agent in just over a week, but they decided to lock him up through 2025. So he's going to be in his 5th season now with the Blue Bombers after beginning his CFL career with the Roughies in 2015.
Well, Candid Frank Live had the privilege of interviewing him before he was drafted, which was a lot of fun. We interviewed him a couple of weeks before the draft. Great guy. I'll always remember the interview. He was it was a very good interview. Anyway, let's go over to the Red Blacks, and they signed Nick Arbuckle to a 1-year deal.
So he was acquired via trade for the second time in his career on July 11th from the Edmonton Elks. He played 12 games for Ottawa, throwing a career-high 2,400 yards on 308 attempts to go along with 4 touchdowns. He led the Red Blacks to 3 of their 4 wins in 2022. Because of that, they're willing to keep him on and see if maybe they can't get a few more wins out of him if they start with him at the beginning of the season as opposed to almost halfway through.
And in the event Mazzoli can't go.
There's also that, yeah.
Right. So that'd be the big reason why they're signing him. And this is what we've talked about in the Canadian Football League. I've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and that is you need to have 2 really good quarterbacks, and we got to figure out how to make players much better as quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League. And one of the ways you do that is you keep guys around that have played and that have had some experience. And that's what the league is doing. Nick Arbuckle is a perfect example of that. Ottawa team perfectly exemplifying the need and requirement to have experienced quarterbacks, more than one. One is not enough. Sorry. Maximum Carney, tell us about that.
So Carney suited up for 17 games and started 6 for the Ticats in 2022 with 26 defensive tackles. The Ticats, as a result of this, have decided to extend him. This is good news for them. He had a 22-yard fumble return touchdown in September against Winnipeg. That's where he got his nickname Scoop. He also previously spent time with the Denver Broncos in 2019 and 2020, as well as Seattle and Detroit in 2019. So glad to see him there. He's a pain to play against, but I've always enjoyed him watching him on the field. So we'll see how this plays out for Hamilton.
Defensive lineman gets signed in Riderville.
Pete Robertson got an extension. He was set to, again, like everybody, he was set to become a free agent on February 14th. He was initially signed in February of 2020 and played his first game in August of 2021 and played 11 games with 10 defensive tackles and 2 special teams tackles. So he's coming from Texas Tech, where he played 52 games with them over 5 seasons. So good luck.
Okay, now we enter the Argos section of the broadcast, and with the Argos, they were very busy. Tavares Daniels, Deshaun Amos, Wynton McManus, Beatty agrees, and of course, a lot of people are asking about McLeod Bethel Thompson. Go ahead, one at a time. Tell us about these guys they brought in, or brought back in, I should say.
Well, with Tavares Daniels coming back, he had a really good season. I played 16 games last year, caught 61 passes for 860 yards. It's good to see him back with the team. He was one of the guys that was a consistent performer for us. They also signed defensive back Deshaun Amos. He played 17 games in 2022, his first season in Toronto, and got 49 defensive tackles and 4 interceptions. One of the key components in helping us win the Grey Cup last year. Glad to see that he's actually back with the team. We also extended Wynton McManus through 2023. Wynton was actually the 9th ranked player in the CFL's top 30 pending free agents list. So, he went down.
The Argos won the Grey Cup without him. And they won the Grey Cup without him.
He had 88 tackles last season, along with 3 sacks. It was one of his career best seasons. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, a little bit cut short from injury. Beatty's back. That's good. He's one of the more consistent legs. We've said a lot. One of the major things to winning, besides a quarterback that throw, is a kicker that can kick. From the spectacular success he had in our playoff game a couple of years back to winning the Grey Cup, that's absolutely fantastic. And he's a 7-year CFL vet and a 2-time East Division All-Star. We're glad that he's had 212 field goals in 111 regular season games. He's been a lifesaver at points for the Argonauts. The big news, however, is Bethel Thompson, MBT. Now, he's informed the Argonauts that he does intend to play in 2023. There were reports last year that it might have been his last season with the team. He did help the Argos get to the Grey Cup in 2022 as they upset the favored Blue Bombers.
He helped them get to almost the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. Now, there has been some talk as well of Kelly taking over as a quarterback here in Toronto, but I have the feeling that MBT is going to stick around for a little bit longer, and Kelly will get some more reps, but not necessarily the starter's role right away.
I am inclined to agree with you, but I also know that the coach feels very deeply that Kelly can be their quarterback of the future, but he wasn't going into this season without an experienced quarterback. And I think, I'm not sure, but McLeod Bethel Thompson might fit that bill as an experienced quarterback in the Canadian Football League.
Well, the hope is that he can continue to perform at the high level that he has been and pull off the same sort of magic this year as he did last.
Yeah, and I think there's some motivation there for McLeod to come back, because I think he would like to be the quarterback under center when they're in winning formation at the Grey Cup.
Yeah, that I think would have been something. As a competitor, I know I like to see myself in that position, and knowing MBT is as competitive as he is, the fact that he wasn't on the field at the final whistle, I think might have rubbed him the wrong way.
Little bit of motivation, little bit of motivation, maybe.
Yeah, injury or not, you'd like to think that he'd be there to take the final knee, right?
He did more than his share to get the Argos to that championship. But I think even in his mind, he's saying, I really wanted to be under center. And he wasn't happy that he got hurt. But we'll see what happens this year. There's going to be an opportunity here to find out how good McLeod Bethel Thompson is under the pressure of having a quarterback that played a big part in them winning the Grey Cup last year. So that's going to be an interesting, side story, if you will, and a pressure position, a pressure place for McLeod Bethel Thompson to deal with. I mean, it's going to be a little easier to look at the sideline and wonder if you're going out. Now, how does this help with the head coach? I don't know. I'm dying to see how he uses it. He's a very, the head coach is very, how shall I put this? Not afraid to make moves if he thinks it's the right move. So, it isn't going to be because McLeod isn't going to play every game because he's McLeod and he deserves to, because he's the quarterback. No. McLeod's going to have to fight for that job. And I think that's not a bad thing in sports.
No, I definitely having a competition between the two quarterbacks that they currently have will actually serve to sharpen both of them. So I'll be glad to see how this plays out. If anything, I think it'll be good for MBT if Kelly can take the starter's role from him, because it'll give him that much more of a kick coming into the playoffs to try to make sure that he's got that position locked up.
Let's go to hockey. And we didn't discuss this. This isn't part of the script, so I'll give you a chance to gather what I'm saying. At the All-Star game, Mitch Marner was talking to another player on the other side of Tkachuk, who was talking to the TV network doing an interview, and he couldn't hear the TV interview because Marner wouldn't shut up.
This is a chance.
Did you notice that one, or did you know about that one, or am I just telling you?
I didn't actually see that, but I did hear about it. Apparently, Tkachuk was unable to get a word in edgewise because Marner just wouldn't shut up.
And he was miffed. He said, maybe I should leave. I should get up. And he got up and walked over. He walked away. Yeah, that was very inconsiderate of Marner. But I don't know. It seems kind of, I'll accuse him of being childishly unaware. I hope that's a fair leveling of let's say a criticism. He should have been a little more aware.
Blind is a fair assessment. I don't think it was necessarily intentional, but it was certainly funny.
Does he have any players on his team, on the Leafs team, that talk to themselves that we know of?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know there's one guy that likes to scream at the referees all the time, which is essentially
but he's not talking to himself. He might as well be talking to himself, but he's not. That's not his intent. So because maybe Marner thought that Tkachuk was just talking to himself. Because, he was one of those people you see walking down the road talking because they have the headphones on and they're talking to the phone, but you don't see anybody. So you wonder, is that somebody who's lost it a little bit? So I'm trying to make excuses for Marner, but there is no excuse. What he did was rude and it was incorrect, and that's the way it goes. GM,
in all fairness, in the footage that we did see, it looks like Marner was talking across Tkachuk to Eric Carlson.
Exactly.
So
that's what I mean. That's exactly why I call it rude, because Tkachuk was trying to have a conversation on the phone, and that's okay. But anyway, Lou Lamoriello signed a contract. Surprised?
Not particularly surprised. Well, I mean, and let's be fair. The contract that was signed was for Bo Horvat, and it was for $68 million over 8 years. Which, in keeping with Lamoriello's tradition, it seems to be a little bit too much money for a little bit too much time. Unfortunately, he's locked in now. That contract basically makes Horvat untradeable again.
Yeah, and as usual, when big contracts like that are signed, other people on the team who were on the team prior to that contract being signed become expendable.
If they want to move anybody or bring anybody else in, some other dominoes are going to have to fall, and that's going to fall on the rest of the team now.
Welcome
to the cap. It's unfortunate that Lou's put them in that position again, but hey, everybody says he's a great GM.
If I could type something underneath you, I go, never mind. Lamoriello is not one of Aaron's favorite people. Let's talk a bit about let's talk the best and the worst. The All-Star Game edition. Give us your review.
So if we look at the splash shot competition that they had, unfortunately, the surfboards didn't fall quite as they should have. There was a lot of repeat hits going on for some of the players, which ended up making them lose. Nathan McKinnon hit several of them 2 or 3 times and they didn't fall. The Tendy challenge the Tendy tandem was interesting. Scoring a goal and then stopping a 1, 2, or 3 on 0 was pretty neat. Unfortunately, the breakaway challenge wasn't what I thought it would be. It was rather disappointing. However, as we enter the last 30 seconds here, I do want to say that keeping the old mainstays like the fastest skater and the hardest shot and the accuracy competition, those were good, even with the little tweaks that they made. So overall, it's not a weekend that I would use to introduce people to hockey, but it was still entertaining for those of us who have been around for a while.
Yeah, they even canceled an event. That's for sure. Okay, Aaron, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Appreciate it, Frank. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Absolutely. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching our program today. And of course, it airs on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It also can be heard on the World Radio Network, the Spanglish World Radio Network. And you can watch Candid Frank live and other news and entertainment sports programming we offer here on SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.